So today I'd just like to go through Bajaj Finance. Uh, it's a it's an interesting chart. As we can see, it's a strongly uptrending chart which has recently corrected, and a lot of investors and a lot of traders are wondering if it's one of those bullish stocks which is worth accumulating at this point and perhaps even trading the future position. So what I thought is that on n.investing.com, if you're watching this from India, just I have set up the Bajaj Finance day chart on the daily time frames to have a look at what the chart structure is sort of telling us. So on the daily, basically, simply selecting the trend line, we can see without discretion that we have a clear collapse in the stock price. Um, this uh, the unique thing about this fall basically is that I mean, if I were to just mark, I would definitely get a higher top here. So there's a higher top at say 4900. Just to make it neater, I'll just put this, I'll just select this, and maybe Arial is good. All right, so we have a higher top here, and preceding this, what we actually have is maybe this was a region of consolidation, so maybe something around this point here. Yeah, I'll just maybe select this, mark this in, give it some good color, I guess, red. Okay, this should have been support. We have multiple lows here, but unclear. Maybe one could argue that uh, this is a this is definitely a double bottom, triple bottom. So what we have here is basically a range. I mean, and Bajaj Finance gave a breakout from the range. We just have to check if this break at the time was supported by volume. So we can simply select an on-balance volume indicator, and what we see that while the price action was consolidating, so was the volume, and this break indeed was backed up with volume too. And what we actually have here is volume. We have a break that is backed up with volume, but we see a strong fall in price action. But just have a look at volume. Um, uh, um, what's actually happened here is that while the price is still just here, we have volume around what was at 3950. So it's reasonably safe to assume that there's definitely accumulation in this zone. This zone is likely to find buying support for sure. Uh, so what we have here is a higher top, and what we don't have here is a lower top. So we have a higher top. We then here have a lower bottom. This is coinciding with, let's say, 2100, 25. All right. This lower bottom, incidentally, at this point is forming a double bottom. Yeah. And also we notice that this is forming like a saucer, a very small saucer. It'll look big on the hourly if I select this as an hourly. Um, no, it's not looking like a saucer, but we definitely see multiple tests here. And just look at the volume break on the hourly. The price is yet to give the break, and the volume has just absolutely shot off through the roof while the price is still there. This could be a case of positive divergence in volume, and the stock could be poised for a short-term up move. We just need to have a closer look on the daily. However, what we can clearly identify is that 2150 is definitely a support for Bajaj Finance. And yeah, so any long attempt on Bajaj Finance, I'll just close this volume chart. So yeah, any long attempt on Bajaj Finance warrants necessarily a sort of maybe a stop loss somewhere around here. I'll just mark this in a different color. Let's just take green. Let's say 2030, and the upside targets are potentially huge. The first target that's possible is right here. Because of the break in volume, I don't see this holding that strongly. I think it'll, even though this is coinciding with the previous support, I think it's a little too premature to take this target, because we have already seen in the previous video that Nifty has given a W pattern break, and Bajaj Finance is one of the constituents of Nifty, and with Nifty showing a potential 15% up move, Bajaj Finance has a significantly greater beta, and we should expect a 20-25% up move if at all it is to take support. But I would like to add a caveat that I have traded these charts before and they're painful to trade. What I'm really getting at is that while we are seeing this bottom, if we sort of like zoom in, if I can, we are seeing a doji harami clearly, which has been confirmed. We got a bearish engulfing. So I'll just mark this here in for since it's for academic purpose. So we have here a confirmed, sorry, doji harami with the volume divergence. Yeah. So we have this here. Then we have this bearish engulfing, which is confirmed. So I'll just mark this here. Confirmed at 3050 maybe, just to keep a resistance. Now, yes, it's true we have a confirmed bearish engulfing. But it's too soon, I think. I mean, after such a fall, like if it's possible for us simply to take a Fibonacci retracement and we just see this here, uh, it's, I mean, even here, maybe at 38% retracement, 3193 would have been justified. This is simply too soon. I think this is premature selling or panic selling or the last wave of selling that has happened. I'll remove this for aesthetics. So yes, Bajaj Finance is definitely worth the long attempt, and I mean, it's definitely counter the momentum. One of the things, the reasons why this is interesting for long is because after the higher top, we don't have a lower top, lower bottom formation yet. We have a lower bottom. One could argue this is a lower top. Okay, fair enough. Let's just call this a lower top also. But then we don't have a lower bottom. We have a double bottom, and that's what we want. We want, if it's clearly a downtrending chart, what we want is a lower top, lower bottom formation, which means the price action should then sort of look like this. I'll connect this here, and then from here basically it should have ideally moved downwards, which is basically our stop loss. We will leave here. So as long as it's trading above 2025 2030, I think it's definitely worth taking long. And I would like to add that even though this looks like a short-term resistance, maybe we don't want to book here. We might want to consider 39.55 as a first partial target, which will coincide with Nifty 10,500. And if this move is to ever happen, then if the likely move from here basically is in this direction, what we get is a textbook W pattern, and it has huge targets at this point at 3030 and 2130. We're looking at a minimum 4033. This is definitely a target. This is definitely a target. We can even reduce this. So yeah, I'll just and just to get a sense of basically how Bajaj Finance is for those who are not tracking or are new to the market. Bajaj Finance, if you want to have a look at the historic trends, what we really want, I'll just remove these lines to make it look aesthetic. So here we go. I'll just remove one of this. Just remove all this. Yeah, so when we have a look at the weekly chart, basically to get an idea of how strong this chart is, I have set the moving average crossover. When we want to know if the security is trending or moving averages are pretty safe to include in the chart. And what we basically see is that Bajaj Finance is trading at around this 200 weekly moving average. And after the higher top, we have a clear lower bottom, and there is a lower top, lower bottom missing, formation completely missing on the weekly. So yeah, is it a buy on a pullback? Then yes, then it's a buy on a pullback and a trade on 200 moving average. But trades on 200 moving averages are better captured on equity segment and not so much on the future segment. They have painful retracements, they're slow moving, they could really tire you out. So either you are in with a lot of conviction, and it offers a great risk reward, but you have to know that you're playing a test match and not a T20 on this context. Just to have an idea if or not there is some volume divergence here. So just have a look at this accumulation distribution. It works better on a weekly chart than on the daily because of its formula where it's impacted by gaps. So if we have a look, we have a clear volume rising. I see no reason why we should not attempt Bajaj Finance. So yeah, I guess Bajaj Finance long trade definitely makes sense, and hopefully we can make some money out of it. Enjoy.